Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've seen other videos. Today, it's a very cold, dreary, rainy day outside. Today's candle of the day is from Target. Target wants to focus on me. That's the Target brand. They kind of rebrand a lot, so that's what it looks like now. This is Ashwood and Palo Santo. I didn't really know what Palo Santo was actually until recently. My coworker walked into the office and I was like, wow, you smell really good. And it was a hand sanitizer she used, of all things, but it was that scent, Palo Santo. And so I'm like, oh my God, I love that. So that smells really good. I also have another candle going like kind of back over there. It's a Cost Plus candle I had burning in my last video, and I tend to, I like to just burn through a whole candle and then move on to the next one. And in today's video, we are going to be decluttering books. So as you can see, I have a lot of books. I have two of these bookshelves, and then I have one on the other side. It's the same size as all of this. And in this room, I have all the books that, this sounds so stupid, but like all the books I like are in this room. I have a backup bookshelf in my bedroom, and that's books that I don't like as much, or that I've read a long time ago, and that I don't like that much. I don't know how else to describe it. So I got to thinking, okay, if you don't like the books on your backup bookshelf, like get rid of them. So especially because I bought a lot of new books recently and I need to make room for the new books that are coming in. Sorry if the lighting just changed. I had to turn off the light in the corner because it was kind of, I don't know, it was distracting me. Okay, so yes, new books coming in. And so the books like on that bookshelf in the other room, it's not even that I don't like them. It's like books, like I have the True Blood series, and they're those like mass market style paperbacks that aren't really that pretty to look at, but I did really like that series and I might want to reread it at some point. So those books are in there. I'm gonna put all my old Harry Potter books in there. They're currently on a shelf down there that could be used for new books coming in. But I do kind of want to get rid of books that I either have read and I know for sure I will not reread, books that I know for sure that I own that I will not read. And I'm sure there's books on my shelf now that I have that I know, like deep down I know I'm not going to read, but I'm not quite ready to get rid of those yet because I'm still like, oh, but what if, and I have the room at the moment, like as you can see. So this shelf right here is, maybe I should do a bookshelf tour video one day, but I recently redid my shelves, and this shelf right here is books that are like my all-time favorite books. So I have the Legends of Thesmar series up there. When I special ordered, this is the Bookish and Spice edition of Blood and Steel, and they recently released the whole series. So when I get that whole series will go up there, but right now it's just the Amazon paperbacks. I have a really bad habit of when I buy books, or when I see a book that I like on Kindle Unlimited and I read the first one and I love it, I'm like, I have to own the book. And I don't know why I'm like that, but I know I am not the only one like that. So in any event, I do need to declutter some books to make room for more books. So that's what this video is going to be, just kind of going through some of the books that I currently have that I'm getting rid of and the reasons why. So I haven't really looked at these books since I've taken them off the shelf, so we're gonna kind of just go through it. I think there's a stack of like 10 or 15, maybe 20 here. Some of them are really random, like a random book. It's called Stones from the River. It is a book, I think it's like contemporary fiction. I did not buy this for myself. My neighbor went to a garage sale like 2 years ago, and she saw some books and this was one of them, and she bought it for me for like 50 cents or something. I just know that this isn't the type of book that I'm going to enjoy. I don't want to say I'm not going to enjoy reading it, but it's just something I'm not going to gravitate towards. I probably will not read this, so I'm going to get rid of it. And by the way, I'm either going to get rid of these books and donate them to Goodwill, or I have a book box in the neighborhood. And if you don't know, they're super cool. It's like somebody buys this box and they put a bunch of books in it, or the neighborhood puts books in it, and then if you want to take a book from there, you put a book in. So yeah, I'm not going to sell these or anything. I'm just going to donate them. maybe somebody else wants them. But yeah, this is just not the style of book I gravitate towards, so I'm going to get rid of this one. She did get me another book randomly that I had on my TBR. It's called My Sister the Serial Killer. I think it's more of like a thriller type book, so that one is still on my backup bookshelf, and I will read that at some point. Okay, the next book, I have listened to this book. I bought this book at Barnes & Noble. It's Ice Planet Barbarian. So for those of you who don't know, Barnes & Noble a lot of times has books on sale that are like buy one, get one 50% off. And so this was one of those books. I had one that I really wanted, and so I said, oh, you gotta find another one to get a 50% off. So I bought this book. I knew that I might not like it. I liked the spine. It's this really pretty like aquamarine teal color. I'm like, oh, it'll look pretty on the shelf, and it does look pretty on the shelf, and I hesitate to get rid of it because it's a beautiful book, and I like the paperback. Like, I like the flop of it. I like just how it feels. But I listened to the audio book of this book through the library, and it's just not for me. I don't mind smutty books. I don't mind books that only have smut as a plot. I don't mind books like, for example, Choosing Theo is kind of like an alien romance, and I really liked that book, but this one just didn't do it for me. I'm not going to continue in this series, and I really have to get rid of books on my shelf that I know I'm not going to read or reread, so that's why this one is going. This is another book. This is a really old book. I got this. It's The Light Between the Oceans. I got this a couple years ago. It was like 2022 when I started to like get back into reading. I asked for some books for Christmas, and this was one of them. I do recall liking this book, but I do know that I'm not going to reread this book, so I just have to let it go. I might actually give this one to my mom because she likes lighthouses, and there's kind of a lighthouse. It's about a woman who's like been trying to get pregnant and can't get pregnant, and her husband live on this he's a lighthouse keeper, and so there's this lighthouse in the middle of nowhere that needs to be kept, and for like 6 months out of the year, and then I guess he gets some time off, he has like a backup person come, and it's set like, I don't think in present day, like in the I don't know when lighthouses were utilized, but yeah, in any event. And then it's just their story and their romance and kind of some of the grief she goes through, and then trying to see what's on the back because I do remember what happens. Okay, yeah, so this is on the back. I just didn't want to give any spoilers. A boat comes to the shore with a baby, and the mom is nowhere to be found on the boat. I don't think it's just the baby, and so the lady who can't get pregnant is like, can we please keep this baby and we'll just say it was mine? And that's kind of the story. So I did like this book. I just know I'm not going to reread it. Okay, this book is really hard to get rid of. So this is another book I got in 2022, right when I was getting back into reading. And you know what? I might like this book, but I am getting rid of this edition for multiple reasons. It's Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. I've listened to a couple other books by S.A. Cosby, and they have been not really for me. There's too much, I feel like there's too much going on, and there's too much going on while also simultaneously not being enough plot for me. And I'm not sure if it's because I listened to the book instead of physically reading the book, and I just didn't pay close enough attention, and so some of the stuff just felt like, get to the point. I listened to Blacktop Wasteland and All the Sinners Bleed. I think it's like a book with like orangey on the cover and blue. And I didn't particularly care for either of those, so I told myself I wasn't going to read another S.A. Cosby book unless it was this book, because I have heard really good things about this book. So the thing is I specifically remember this. I don't remember a lot, but I remember this 2 years ago going into the bookstore, and there was this version of the book, which as you can see, it's like a shorter paperback and taller. It's not like a floppy paperback. And they had this one and a regular edition, and this one was like $10 and the regular one was like $16. And I was like hemming and hawing, and I'm like, why would you spend more money? It's the same book, just buy the cheaper one. And I just don't like how it feels. I know that sounds so petty and ridiculous, but I don't like how it feels. It's too clunky in my hand, and so I'm getting rid of this edition. And if I want to read this book, I will check it out from the library. Okay, the next book, this is a book that was given to me a long time ago and I kept it for some reason. This is a book by an author that I will not read anymore. Nothing against the author. She's not problematic that I know of or anything like that, but all of the books I read by her, I have not liked at all. And this is Ruth Ware, The Lying Game. I just don't like her. So somebody else can appreciate this book, and I know I will never pick this up. And on the off chance one day I wake up and I think, wow, I really wish I kept that book, I will get it from the library, but it is getting off of my shelf. Okay, the next book is a book called An Ocean of Minutes. Again, one of the books I picked up in 2022 when I started to get back into reading, before I got into BookTube and Bookstagram, and before it, and when I say got into, I mean before I even started watching BookTube at all, I thought, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna write a book. And the book I wanted to write, interestingly enough, I would actually, I didn't know the genre when I was thinking about writing it. It would have been fantasy romance or some sort of paranormal type romance, and it would have involved time travel. And so I wanted to read other fiction books that involved time travel, and this was one of the ones I picked up from Amazon. I did start this book and I didn't like it. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't gripping to me, so I put it down and I haven't picked it up in years, and I'm not going to pick it up again, and I'm not going to write the book because I actually did start it, and somewhat recently I went back and reread what I wrote, and it was actually terrible. Think about the worst book you've read, and it's probably worse than that. So I am not a writer, and that's okay. At least a fiction. I read a lot for work, but it's not fiction type stuff. So anyway, this book is going. Okay, the next book, I have read this book and I did not like this book. And this is Gothicana by Rue Nix. It is it's beautiful purple sprayed edges. The black book, really gothic vibes. I can't remember if this is considered fantasy or paranormal type romance. I know it's a dark romance, it's taboo, it's a relationship between a student teacher, which I have no problem with. I love I can't say I love student teacher romance, but I love taboo romance because I really like the tension that tends to get built between the characters in the taboo romance. And I have read other student teacher, obviously both of consenting age. I'm not talking about under 18, this is all over 18. This book, I just found it to be boring, and I didn't like the romance, and I was I guess I just don't really care. The reason I didn't like this book wasn't because of anything to do with the plot or the taboo nature of the book. I just simply did not like the writing, and it didn't captivate me, and it pains me to get rid of it because it's a beautiful book to look at, but it just wasn't for me, and that's okay. I know lots of people really did like it, but it is leaving my shelf. And somebody is going to get very lucky and get a beautiful edition of this at Goodwill for probably $2. Okay, the next book, this was given to me recently. I'm not a nonfiction reader, okay? This is called Educated. It's a memoir. I'm sure it's a great book. I believe I have heard good things about this. The woman who gave it to me said it was really good. I'm sure it is, but if I'm going to read this book, it's going to be a library book. And so because of that, I'm going to get rid of it and give it to somebody or donate it to another individual that is going to appreciate it and like it much more than I will. It is not going to do anybody any favors sitting on my bookshelf staring at me. So yeah, this one's going. This is a book my boyfriend bought me last year, or maybe it was the year before. I can't exactly remember. I think it was the year before. It was 2022 because it was when I was just getting back into reading again, and he bought me this book from Target, and this is Holly Jolly Cowboy, and he bought it because he knows I ride horses. So it was very thoughtful, but you know, I'm not gonna read it. I don't think so. It's gonna go. Okay, this next book I've also read. It is by an author that I typically If you asked me 6 months ago, I would say I really liked her, and now I would say she's totally hit and miss for me. This is a book by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's called Forever Interrupted. I first got into Taylor Jenkins Reid when I read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I loved that book. Again, another 2022 book when I was just getting into reading again. Really enjoyed it. I still have that book on my shelf. It's somewhere. I see it right there. Oops. Right there is Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. But this one, I got the audiobook from the library. Initially, I bought this book at Target. I went through a phase, I call it a phase, I still do it, where I just go to Target and I'm like, I gotta buy books today. And so I bought this. They have really good prices, so it's hard to not do it. But in any event, this one I bought from Target, and then I hadn't read it for a couple years, and then I saw it available through Libby, the audiobook, and I listened to it and I didn't like it. Nothing, I think I gave it 3 stars. Nothing was terribly wrong with it. I wouldn't call it a romance, and maybe that's my, you know, bad on me because I thought it was something that it wasn't, but it just missed the mark for me. I know I will never read this book again, so it's going to go to somebody else who wants to read it. Okay, the next book has a story because I thought I would never declutter a Sarah J. Maas book, but here we are. This is Queen of Shadows, and I'm actually giving this to a friend slash coworker of mine. I hated this book. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't hate this book. I love this book. What happened is one day in May of last year, I was at a horse show and I was reading. And by the way, I have a very particular order for how I think the Throne of Glass series should be read. I know what SJM has endorsed. Personally, I think you should read Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, then Assassin's Blade. And if you've read these books, think about it. Assassin's Blade sets up this book real well. Anyway, then Queen of Shadows, then Empire of Storms, then Tower of Dawn, then Kingdom of Ash. But so I was at a horse show and I brought Assassin's Blade with me, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to finish this book. You know, whatever. I'm just going to bring this one. I'm busy. This is just like, you know, reading when I have time. Oh, actually, no, this wasn't in May. I'm sorry. This was in October. And the reason I remember that is because I fell off at that horse show. And so I had more free time than I thought, and I finished Assassin's Blade, and I wanted to read this book really badly, and I knew I already had it at home. I don't know why I didn't just buy it on Kindle, but I went to Barnes & Noble at the town we were in for the horse show, and I bought this book. So now I have 2 literally identical copies. Like the paperback I have on my bookshelf up there is this copy. I don't need 2 copies. I do need 2 copies of some books, but I don't need 2 identical copies of the same book. So my coworker is reading Throne of Glass series. She's not really loving it at the moment. And I said, well, maybe if you switch to the physical books, you'll like it more than audiobook because it is a lot to process. And so she happens to be at this book. So I told her I'd give it to her. So that's going to go in a different pile. Okay, this is another book. This is by Emily Giffen, The Lies That Bind. Sorry, the lighting's really weird on this. This is a book that I randomly had on my bookshelf for years. A long time ago, like before 2022, when I got back into reading, it was like, I might have been in high school or like fresh out of high school and just getting into college. And there was 3 books by this author that I really liked. It was Something Borrowed, Something Blue, and then I forget what the 3rd book in this series was called. It was the one with the yellow cover. So I really liked those books, and I should reread them to see if I still like them. But in any event, I had this one on my shelf for a long time. I knew I liked the author, so I just kept it around. And recently I picked it up. Recently, it was probably last December, to be honest. I picked this up and I started reading it to see if I would enjoy it. And it's not for me. The writing was very simplistic in a way that I just couldn't get through the whole book with writing like that. So I am going to give this to somebody else. It has an interesting premise. This book is about, and I'm sorry, I probably should have told you what books were about the entire time, but not all of them. I haven't read all of them. So, but I did start this one and I read the back of the book. It's a book about a woman like meets somebody and then they hit it off in a bar. Oh, and by the way, that's where the book starts, where she meets the guy in the bar, and it was very like insta love, and I'm like, ooh, I don't like this. So anyway, and then he dies in September 11th. That's according to the back of the book, and I got some weird feeling that he actually didn't die. Like he probably just disappeared and then he'll turn up at the end or something, and could be totally wrong, but it wasn't for me. Okay, we have 3 more. The next book is a book that I asked for Christmas a couple years ago, and this book is called oh yeah, that was the other book too, the Lighthouse book. So I got that book and this book for Christmas in 2022. This is The Alchemist. A friend of mine at the time, she loved this book, and I was like, oh, okay. And so I added it to my list. A couple things. Mainly, this is not the style of book that I particularly gravitate towards, so I know I will never read this. The other thing, if I do want to read it, I'll check it out from the library, because this is that type of book that has, oh, how do you describe it? Like, the pages aren't, let's see, the pages aren't, flush. They're kind of like, rough. Like, some pages stick out further than others, and I don't like that, and I know that that would bother me. Also, interestingly enough, that Lighthouse book was, the same way, and I don't know why they did that, so. Okay, so here is another book that has just been around the block. You know, my mom probably gave me like a stack of books at some point in time, and I just kept them. This one is called Save the Date. It looks like a romance. I'm just not going to read it, so I'm going to pass it on to somebody else. The next book, similarly, actually, I think I got this book in the same haul where my neighbor went to the garage sale and bought me books, which was very kind of her. And so this one is called The Republic of Love. So I'm like reading the back. It says, a novel that's so engrossing it makes you want to retire to a squashy sofa until you reach the end. Well, gee, I want to read a book like that. Maybe I want to keep this one. I might keep this book, actually. So the back says, it's a viewpoint that shifts between characters, so I think that means it's dual point of view. There's Faye, a folklorist. Faye, F-A-Y is her name. She's not a fairy. A folklorist whose passion for mermaids has kept her from focusing on any one man. And right across the street, there's Tom, a popular radio talk show host who has focused a little too intently, having married and divorced 3 times. That's a lot. Only Carol could describe so... Okay, never mind. Oh, Carol Shields, that's the name of the author. So it's basically the story of them falling in love. Okay, I'm not going to keep this. I changed my mind. I am going to write the name of this book down, The Republic of Love, and if I decide that I would like to pick this up at some time, I will see if the library has it. And that's it. Those are the books that I'm getting rid of. I think there's like 15 books that we went through, so yeah, it makes room for more books on the shelf and just getting rid of stuff that I don't need. I'm trying not to be a hoarder. It's really hard because, like I said, I have Kindle Unlimited, and then when I really like a book, I buy all the books in the series. Or like today, I went to Target and I bought the new, oh, it's beautiful. I will show it to you guys real quick. It's the special edition of Icebreaker. I loved this book. I didn't so much like Wildfire, and then I really like Daydream, so I hope that Daydream comes out with a special edition too. But you can see the pages are sprayed, they're snowflakes. It's just super cute. So I need to have room on my shelf, so when I go to Target and I see a beautiful special edition, I can pick it up. Okay, so I think that's all for today's video. I feel like I talked a lot, but I'm looking at the time of the video, and this is like a third the length of time that my videos normally are. So sorry if I talked super fast. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. I'm not sure what it will be yet, but thank you. Bye.